waiting for you to come back on so that they join us. I think they
Uh-huh.
will join us as time goes on.
No problem.
Yeah. So we're continuing. We're continuing with uh, you telling us about your aspirations after your retirement.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd like to play rugby for as long as possible, of course.
You won't play until maybe you you are 35 like the beast.
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
hopefully. I mean, one of the things I've been looking at during this lockdown, which
Hmm.
goes hand in hand with what I'm studying, is the longevity of a professional athlete's career,
That's
you know,
true. That's true.
and 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 the different ways of adapting a certain lifestyle that'll uh, that'll sort of increase your chances of having a longer career, you know, and obviously, last season I played. We were lucky enough to have Scout Brits within our setup, who is a 38-year-old professional
38. Yeah,
rugby
yeah,
player. You
yeah.
know, 38-year-old World Cup winning hooker. You know,
Yeah, yeah, I know
which
him.
is quite impressive. And getting some pointers from him was important for me. He taught me quite a lot in terms of managing the body
And he still has
and
those old tricks of punching and everything.
yeah. Yeah, he's crazy. He's crazy. He's
I
got a
know,
bit
I
of a
know.
bit of a short fuse.
I know him.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
and yet, when you talk about being long in the game, even your
mm.
friend Alex here in Uganda has
Himself.
really served the game well. I think he's now into his 40s and is still playing for his club, yeah, which is
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
exactly. So it's possible, you know, if you
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
I
look
get.
after if you look after your body and you pay attention to the areas that need to be paid attention to, then you never know. You could play until you're 40 for sure.
Yeah, maybe as well. You might as well give us a season in Uganda.
I would be happy to do that as long as it's not sevens.
And now, no, of course, the 15th man game.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Rhinos would be glad to have you on board.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
that
tell
would
them
be
to get in touch.
do that. But like I say, my career is still fresh enough for
I,
me to play for another few years, I think.
I know, I know, I know. Yeah, so
Mm.
I'm getting the questions from the fans here.
Excuse me.
One question I would love to carry on from the other side is, can you sing the Blue Bulls anthem?
To be honest, I can't. Not only do I not know the words
Uh-huh.
properly, but even when we do it in the change room after a win, it's usually the same guy that does it, you know. So
Hmm.
so we become accustomed to someone else doing it, not.
To listening and maybe drumming and humming, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so somebody's asking, how do you prepare, you personally, how do you prepare for a game?
Um, I like my quiet before a game. When I was younger, I kind of got a bit crazy, and you know, we all believe in getting psyched up and
Hmm.
listening to Ray Lewis and crazy guys like that. You know, even though Ray Lewis is quite an influence on me as an athlete. I like my quiet before games. I like to sort of find peace within my mind before going onto the field where there's not much peace.
Hmm. So you don't
So
pretty much listen to any music, something like that.
yeah, I do listen to music, but it's not that noisy. It's not like a crazy. I don't try and create this wild atmosphere before I play. You know, I when I was younger, I used to sort of affirm things to myself,
Hmm.
which has become a psychological trait now. You know, this is something that I didn't know of as a young player. I would listen to Muhammad Ali's speeches and affirm them to myself in the mirror. You know, it's sort of like visualizing the future almost,
Yeah, yeah,
and
that
and that's become a real concept. Visualization has become a real psychological concept in sport
I
now. You
like
know,
that. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know of it before. I used to, if you know that speech that Muhammad Ali, well, it wasn't really a speech. It was a poem that he recited,
Hmm.
his own poem that he recited before he fought George Foreman in Africa, in where was it? It was in Africa. Was it South Africa? It wasn't South Africa, was it?
And I don't think it was around I think
Kenya.
yeah, the Democratic Republic around there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it
But
was.
before that fight, he made that speech where he affirmed all these things. And what made him very special to me actually was how he would affirm things before he fought, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of athletes are not brave enough to do that. And the ones that are brave enough to do it these days, like your Conor McGregors and your bronze bombers,
Mm-hmm.
Deontay Wilder,
Yeah.
those guys, they haven't really stood the test of time, you know. They speak a lot, but they've already both lost a lot of fights, you know, whereas Muhammad Ali managed to stand the test of time with that loud mouth, which was really
That's
impressive, you
true.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really special to me from a young age, you know, kind of affirming things to myself before I would go onto the field.
Yeah. So we've got another interesting question from a fan. Who has
Mhm.
been your toughest opponent in the game so far?
Oh, that's tough. There've been some hard games. To be honest, in high school we played against a school called Daniel Pina. This was in high school. Obviously,
Hmm.
wasn't I wasn't it's not a professional scene or anything, but
Yeah.
the mentality going into that game, they were known as quite a mean rugby school. You know, we weren't,
I know. I
and
know.
and facing them, to be honest, was really intimidating at the time. So I can't say I felt anything even close to that feeling ever since.
I know
Um,
school games tend to be so tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Especially when you're not so sure of yourself. You know, I lacked confidence as a rugby player. I was literally just there to jump in the line out and try and steal some line outs. But
Uh,
but the intimidation that I felt that day was something really different.
that's true. And
Mm.
what has been your toughest game as a rugby player?
My toughest game. I obviously haven't had enough tough ones because I have to think about this. Um, Poof, that's tough. There've been plenty. There've been plenty.
So,
I would say Fiji, when we played Fiji in the Commonwealth Games, that was quite tough.
mhm.
And we lost as well. So, you know, we went into extra time and we fought and we fought. We were in there 22 for what felt like ages. It was probably 2 minutes, but
That's true.
but that was quite tough, and the outcome was even more tough. So, yeah.
And speaking of Fiji, you've given us your overall toughest opponent. But in the World Series, in the seventh game, who has been like really your toughest opponent? Whenever you get on pitch and you're like, this guy has me, you know?
An actual opponent.
No, yeah, yeah, an opponent.
No, that's tough. I don't think anyone really had to worry about me on the seventh field. The guys that I was playing with were more of a worry than I was, I think. Um, uh, so yeah, I don't think there was an individual that really was out to get me.
Hmm.
If there was, maybe he didn't do a really good job because because I can't pinpoint him.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so somebody saying that your side step floats like a butterfly. I think this guy pretty knows much about you, so because every comment he makes is pretty much funny.
Yeah.
And the same guy is asking, "Are you really a vegetarian?"
Oh, that's my brother. I see him. He's taking the fool out of me. That's what he's doing.
which is pretty cool and mean, I know.
Yeah, yeah, no. I've tried to be a bit more health conscious in terms of my nutrition.
Hmm.
Again, it boils down to the knowledge that you feed yourself, you know. There's a lot of knowledge out there now that kind of confirms a lot of things that go against what we've sort of been told our whole lives. Um,
Sure.
but if you delve deep within the nutrition side, it's really hard to actually pinpoint what's right and what's wrong. So what I feel is important is that individuals try things out as sort of trial and error for themselves, you know. So
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I so I tested out the vegan diet, and I felt that it didn't work for me completely. I felt like I wasn't getting the right proportions in, which is ultimately the problem when it comes to eating only what vegans are eating. As a professional athlete, you need a lot of certain nutrients that on a daily basis, and that's quite hard to it's quite hard to maintain that with a strictly vegan diet. So, I mean, I tried it, and as an athlete, I don't think it's I mean it works. It could work, I guess, but the effort that you'd have to put into making sure that your proportions are taken care of every day is quite challenging. But again, this project that I've been working on,
Mm-hmm.
that will hopefully cover everything that people are struggling with in terms of the proportions and whatnot within these different diets. We'll have a sort of database that will take care of that for the individuals. That's where I think this thing could be special, but that's that's something for the future.
I know. I think you can read some of these comments. I
Yeah.
think to save some time, you can answer them as they come in, because now pretty much it is question and answer.
Okay. Let's see. I don't see any now.
There's one which is asking how beautiful are South African girls. That one
How
is
beautiful is
crazy.
South Africa? I mean, it goes without saying. I think we have some of the most beautiful girls in the world. Maybe that's why the tourism is so big in South Africa in the first place.
But Ugandan girls are crazy too.
Yeah,
Ugandan girls are beautiful too. So,
yeah, they are. I mean, African girls in general are extremely beautiful. So that's no secret.
so someone is asking about your craziest night out after a game.
I think we'll skip that one. I
Yeah.
definitely
So,
can't speak about that on the internet.
of course, yes, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tim, maybe you could, if we don't have more questions from the fans, we could go into your final remarks to the rugby players out there, the aspiring rugby players, both in South Africa and Kenya, because I know it's not only Ugandans watching, there's some Kenyans watching, there's some
Mm.
from South Africa watching. Yeah, so you could give some words, some inspiration and everything.
Yeah, so I'd like to reiterate what I said earlier. Um, um, if I can speak from my own perspective, and I'm sure a lot of young players from Uganda and Kenya alike would have the same sort of experiences as I did. Even though I was based in South Africa, I really had no rugby background.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I had no business becoming a professional rugby player. I was probably well, I am probably, no, I can't say probably, but there aren't any professional rugby players out of my high school. So that alone is sort of testament to what I'm about to say, and that is that distractions will come as a young aspiring athlete. Distractions are always there, and it is really up to you as an individual to deal with those and to remain focused on your ultimate goal. I would encourage all young players to reach out to professional athletes. Um, when I was in high school and aspiring to be a professional, we didn't have platforms like Instagram and Facebook and all these social media outlets where it's possible to reach out to your sort of at your heroes in different areas of sport. So I encourage youngsters to use those avenues properly. Follow your heroes and sort of mimic what they're doing, because there's certain things that you need to be doing as a professional consistently if you want to make it to the top and stay there. So I would definitely simply encourage focus, consistent focus, and always striving to take in new knowledge, always taking in knowledge and not allowing yourself to become distracted.
That's right. So, growing up, did you have any role model?
Yeah, of course. I mentioned Muhammad Ali. Um, my family didn't have much of a sporting background. We were very much academic, but I,
Uh,
I would I would I would always wake up in the early hours of the morning to watch the likes of Tyson fight and you know all the boxers at the time. Um,
Maybe
my dad,
you pretty much had a dreamer to be a boxer one day.
yeah, I did at some stage. I did, to be honest, until I got into a real fight, and then I was like,
Hmm.
wow, I can't do this as a living.
Yeah, so in the
Yeah,
rugby
so
circles, when you started playing rugby, did you have a player you looked up to?
uh, I mean, John Olomu, of course, was a player that every rugby player aspired to be.
That's
But
true.
you know, but like I said, you know, my the whole birth of rugby within me came very late. I remember asking my brother as he asked silly questions,
Lamborghini or Porsche?
Lamborghini or Porsche? Neither, neither. The answer is neither.
A Toyota, maybe.
So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I remember asking him, you know, in the early days of high school. I remember asking him literally to explain how this rugby thing worked, you know,
Hmm.
because we used to play touch rugby on the school fields as a group of hostel boys, you know, just messing around.
Yeah,
But when you play touch rugby, there are no real rules, you know. You just
that's
sort
true.
of you're just kind of messing around. But I kind of went on like that for almost 2 years without really knowing the rules of rugby. You know, I would, like I said, I would just jump in the line out. I knew exactly how line outs worked, and I was pretty good at that. So I think
Hmm.
that's why I made the team most of the time. But I didn't understand the game
Yeah.
itself, and I needed. I remember asking my brother at the age of maybe 16, you know, to literally draw on a piece of paper how rugby works, and and he
So
had to do that.
your brother played rugby before you, right?
Yeah. So he was in the same high school, but he'd been there for years before I'd come.
Hmm.
So he was already into the culture of it, and he played rugby himself. You know, he was within the first team, second team at the time. So he was sort of well versed in rugby. You know, before I was.
We have not had much of him.
No, he wasn't serious. Just like everyone else, he just played at school,
Ah, I see, I see.
from there, yeah. Mm.
He's now dreaming of driving Lamborghinis, which is quite which is
He still
quite
has big
epic.
dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
he's a clown, that one.
you're still telling us.
Yes. Sorry, what's that?
You are still giving us some insights into
Yeah, I mean
becoming
that was sort of a stepping stone to into my knowledge of the game of rugby, you know.
yeah.
Once I started understanding the game more, I started applying myself in better ways, you know. I became more than just a line out option. In fact, I quit when I was in grade 11. I'd stopped playing rugby because I had a knee injury from playing squash. I'd played squash for many years before rugby,
Hmm.
and I was actually quite serious about squash. I'd represented South Africa, and I was pretty good at squash, so I thought that was the sport I was going to play. But it wasn't very popular, you know. You get to high school and everyone's talking about this rugby thing, so I wanted to be good at rugby too, you know. So So yeah, that was the birth of it in high school, and then from there, like I said, our first team coach he kind of saw something in me. He used to play touch rugby with us, in fact, on the
Hmm.
at hostel, you know, just as in the backyard. And after one of those touch rugby games, he said to me, because I was a lock actually, I was a lock when I was 15, 14, and after one of those games, he said, I think you should play eighth man, Tim. You're a loose forward, you know. And
Yeah.
I thought, what? I'm not a loose forward. What's a loose forward? Like what?
And
But I
for you,
mean,
you
from there,
wanted to run
from
like John Alomu, you know?
I mean, not even. That was so frightening. That was extremely frightening at the time. I didn't want to do what John Lom was doing, but it was quite exciting to watch what he
Hmm.
was doing. You know?
I know.
Yeah, yeah. I was happy to just jump in the line out and win us the ball.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Tim, how was the family support when you're growing up as a rugby player? Were they really supportive? Because I think what most Ugandan rugby players face here is that support from the family.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, my dad didn't support it at all. It was a
Mm-hmm.
brand new concept to him, to become a professional and try and live a life, a lucrative life at least, um, through rugby. You know, he didn't believe that a person could make a living by playing this
Mm-hmm.
sport of rugby that he obviously didn't know much about. So a lot of my early rugby days were actually trying to prove to him that I could do this thing, you know.
I
Um,
know.
I remember I can imagine how it is for all young Ugandans out there because you know our parents generally don't see professional sport as a career. You know, it's more as an extramural sort of thing. Um, like my dad was very academic himself. He I don't think he played much sport, although he was interested in soccer and boxing. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think he played much sport himself, and he definitely didn't see it as a career option, you know. So I had a lot of convincing to do at the beginning of my academy career.
I
Um,
know.
but as time went on, and he sort of realized that I was good enough. He kind of started to ease off a bit, but yeah, it was quite difficult to convince him that this is the career path that I wanted to take.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I guess after that they have been much more supportive after realizing that it is your dream and it is what you're
Mm.
really interested in taking up.
Yeah, of course. I remember when I was 18 and I was trying to convince him that I wanted to attend the Sharks Academy instead of attending the University of Johannesburg, which also presented me with an opportunity, a bursary, to go and study and play there. But I really wanted to go to the Sharks Academy, and what he did was he told me to write an essay. As I said, he was an academic.
Hmm.
He told me
Yeah,
to write an essay that would sort of illustrate where I saw myself in 10 years time, you know. And funny enough, that was that was in 2008 or so. And in
yeah.
2016, which is close to 10 years, 2016, close to 10 years later, I was representing South Africa at the Olympic Games, which I'm sure he didn't believe if I had written that down, which I didn't. Of course, I didn't believe it myself, but I had some real convincing to do in terms of trying to buy him over into accepting the fact that I wanted to play rugby professionally.
That's true. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
we see some question coming in late, but I think it is crucial and it is essential to many sportsmen out there.
Yeah.
Uh, as a sportsman, what sort of effect have injuries had on your mentality? Have you had any long-term injuries of sorts?
Oh, yeah, I've had many. Uh, I actually count my scars as blessings, actually, because what they've taught me through my rugby career is so paramount. I believe um, players need to nurture their minds before an injury happens. You know, it's one thing to manage to get through it once it's already happened. It's quite difficult too, especially without. Well, I did have mentors, but if you didn't have someone to really lean on during those times, it does become extremely difficult. Which is why I've emphasized the fact that psychology, specifically in sport, when you become injured for a long time, you know, in certain instances, an injury can take you out the game completely. You know, it can end your
That's
career,
true. Yeah.
and that takes a lot of mental sort of capacity to deal with. So, yeah, the mental aspect of rugby specifically needs a lot more attention, I think. Um, I luckily managed to get through a lot of injuries through my faith. Um, that really has carried me through the darkest times within my rugby career. That's always been a something that's been steadfast within me, and
True.
yeah, it's really always carried me. Whenever I've been injured, I've always had a sort of shining light, so to speak. You know, that would sort of keep me cheerful, even though I was going through some difficult times when injuries occurred.
That's true. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Tim, we've been very honored to host you here. Unless you still have other comments to make. Uh, me,
No.
my humble request is to get me at least as many as uh, maybe 10, 100 pro South Africans to get on this platform and speak to the Ugandan rugby community, because when they see people who have made it up on the ladder like you guys, they get inspired to
Mm.
also try to play the game they love. So,
Yeah, I'd be happy to reach out to some of the well, some of my friends at least that are professionals.
mhm.
Hopefully they can share some of their story with you guys, and perhaps some advice, or like I've said, a mentorship is really important
That's true.
for young professionals. Yeah.
Yeah, and as we're trying to develop the game in our back in our country in Uganda, we look up to you guys because you are the best in the whole world. So why not?
Yeah.
And you are pretty much our neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Which
and
is
I'm
why we'd be more than happy to extend, a little bit of help
that's true.
where we
And
can.
I myself am looking to add on to these walls a Blitzbook jersey and a Blue Bulls jersey signed by you. So
I'd love to, yeah.
when I order it from the stores, it will have to first pass by your address.
No, perfect. I'd be more than happy. I've got a Springbok Sevens jersey that I'll be more than happy to send to you.
Oh,
Just as
thank
a
you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll
I'll
be
do that.
honored. I'll be honored to have that.
I'll do that, no problem.
All right. Yeah. So, Tim, we again we've been honored to have you here. I'm sure your video will be shared on very many multiple platforms. You've really given us too much insight, and we're really grateful. Hope the players who have been watching you can get in touch as soon as you. I know you to be an open person. The first
Mm.
time I really contacted you, I was like, oh, I may not get a reply from this guy, but
Yeah, no. That's not what I'm about. That's exactly the opposite.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I feel it's important that I at least extend a helping hand where I can, because
Hmm.
as a youngster myself, I would have loved it to be
That's
able
true.
to reach out to my heroes.
That's true.
So yeah,
That's true.
I encourage everyone that's listened to reach out in any way. I'd be more than happy to extend a bit of advice, whether it be rugby advice or just anything mental. I'd be more than happy to share my training regimes, which is it's going to be quite prominent
Hmm.
in the coming months.
Yeah,
But
we know, we know.
yes,
I've been
I
following a
encourage
little
everyone
bit.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I encourage everyone to reach out if you feel so. Don't hold back. I'd be more than happy to share where I can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Tim. We hope you have a lovely day, and we thank our fans as usual for always tuning in to watch for because these shows are quite long. This one has gone on for pretty much 1.5
Yeah,
hours, but
I thought so. I warned
yeah,
you.
yeah, but.
I see
Philip
Philip
has
says he wants
finally
to.
he also wants to trade a Ugandan rugby jersey.
Let's do that. Let's do that. I have many. We can trade. I actually want a Cranes jersey. I didn't manage to ever get one on the series,
If
so I'd
mine
love to
was
trade.
fitting, I would have sent you mine. But mine is
But
size small.
it's not to wear though. That's
Ah,
the thing.
now
Yeah.
we're going to exchange directly.
Let's do that. Let's do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll
Nice,
be honored to
nice.
give you mine too.
That's good business.
Yeah. uh,
Yeah.
all right, Tim. It has been nice having you here. Let's